right, what's up, everyone? Good to see all of you. Hopefully you all had a good week. And happy Friday. Let's see who we got in the audience. I see Alan. Good to see you as always. Peter, thanks so much for joining. Ricky, Sally, Jean 1649, happy Friday to you. Hey, Solo 401. Always a pleasure. Pretty busy day, right? Lots to talk about. Big jobs numbers too. Non-farm payrolls. Now, I think this was probably the most interesting non-farm payroll number we've gotten recently. We'll talk about why. Major changes to the... Well, we'll talk about it in a minute. Lots of volatility in the market. Also at the White House today, we had the Digital Asset Summit. You had the CEO of Robinhood, ticker symbol HOOD, at the White House today. You also had the CEO and founders of Gemini, Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss, were both at the White House today. And then you had the CEO of Coinbase. Interesting stuff. We'll talk about it in a minute. But for now, as always, we're right here on the corner of 5th Avenue and 57th Street, looking at the beautiful Louis Vuitton building here. Still a little bit cold, still a lot windy. Hopefully that'll change. We'll see. Next week is supposed to warm up a little bit, but I will not be here next week. I will be in Miami, Florida, and in Palm Beach, which I'm pretty excited about because I have yet to spend a lot of time in Palm Beach. So hopefully I'll be able to capture some interesting footage for everybody. B-Ball, what's going on? Thanks for joining. Here we are looking at the Crown Building. Yeah, DC 322 says below, or unemployment has gone up, but it's still at historical lows. Yeah, the unemployment rate did tick up today to 4.1% from 4%. Now, the U.S. economy did add just over 150,000 jobs. I think the exact number was 151,000 jobs for February. It did miss the mark, so coming in below expectations. But there's a ton of shakeups. There was a net loss of 10,000 government jobs. Now, a lot of the experts were, on all the kind of main media channels today saying that the vast majority of the DOGE, or Department of Government Efficiency, job cuts were made too late to really be able to show up in the report or reflect in those job losses. So you can only imagine what the job losses are going to be for the month of March. Pretty interesting, but if you follow me on X, I posted the infographic from the Wall Street Journal that kind of showcases federal employment growth and federal employment cuts, and it was just a massive sea of red. Anyway, we'll get started in a minute. We'll just do the quick audio and visual check. So if you guys can hear us, and if we are streaming in 1080p, just go ahead and leave a thumbs up in the chat, and we will go ahead and get started. Dale is here, Kelly Jones, what's going on? Lena Sandoval, welcome. Middle Age Grind, John Sunderland, what's up, John? Kyle is here. Trump Tower. Now, I'm not too sure, I'm not 100%, but I was walking through Trump Tower today, and I thought I ran right into Jared Kushner. I'm not 100%, but he definitely looked like him. I don't know if he's in New York, or maybe he's overseas, but I'm pretty sure that was him. I was in the Trump Tower today. And anyway. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Walks on Wall Street. I want to wish you all a happy Friday. We finally made it to the end of the week. Very long week, and a very volatile week on Wall Street, frankly put. We did get the non-farm payroll numbers out today, as we've just briefly reviewed. For the month of February, the United States added around 151,000 jobs. But on a go-forward basis, I think we're going to see a major shakeup. And I'll preface this by saying the following. If you have not watched the interview with Scott Bessent that took place, I think it was either today or yesterday, I think that is a much must watch for the overall direction of the market, because it sets priorities and it sets expectations. Now, one of the things, and I'll kind of paraphrase what Scott Bessent said, is he's like, there's going to be a quote-unquote detox period for the economy. And he stressed the fact that over the last really 14 years, right, in this decade of ZERP, in terms of zero interest rate policy that we've been in, he said the U.S. economy has been quote-unquote addicted to public spending or government spending, right? And what he's trying to do is reshape the economy and transition a lot of that economic growth, right? Because we have to be fair. All of this fiscal spending, this public spending, this government spending has grown the economy, right? But in a non-sustainable way, because it racks up our national debt and gross deficits. So what Scott Bessent is trying to do, and the Trump administration is trying to do, is transition the economy off of the dependency of public spending or government spending and re-turbocharge our private sector. And he said that is going to be an adjustment period. So reading between the lines there will be some volatility in the markets. And there may even be a short-term contraction in the economy. Because let's face it, if you have an economy, which I believe, and many of you probably would agree, that has been dependent on government spending, on both sides of the aisle, right? This isn't a political statement to say the Democrats are spending too much money or the Republicans are spending too much money, because quite frankly, they both are, right? If you just kind of do an audit of the previous few administrations, they were big spenders on both sides, right? Irregardless of the reason, the virus, the pandemic, social programs, it's ballooned government spending. And it's going to take a lot of time to transition the U.S. dependency off of public spending to private spending. So if you have some time this weekend to go back and really just take some time and watch Scott Bessent's interview. One of the funny things about the interview is he called out something that I mentioned on the stream about a week ago, which was a piece of economic data in terms of consumer spending, which stuck out to me like a sore thumb. And we reviewed this, we had an entire stream about it, and it's that the top 10% of American consumers now account for 49% of all consumption. Okay, I'll say that again. So the top 10% of income earners in America, which means you make a household income of about $150,000 a year or more, those individuals in the United States now account for 49% of all the spending, which is a really glaring piece of data if you take into account just how tough it is for the average American to deal with inflation, which essentially kind of, goes to prove my thesis of the creation of a two-tiered society, right? This economic recovery since the financial crisis has been very lopsided. It's really created the extreme haves and the extreme have-nots. So you have unbelievable economic prosperity at the top 10%, and then you pretty much have everybody else. So quality of life really makes a difference, or you could see a major difference in quality of life between the top 10% of income earners and everybody else. It shows up in the data, right? Those are the people, those are the individuals that are driving much of that spending. And, Scott Bessent said that, and he's like, look, we want to focus now on growing the economy and making the economy better for the bottom 90%, right? That struggles the most with inflation, that doesn't really benefit from a rip-roaring stock market, right? Because another data point that we pointed out is that about the top 10% of Americans own about 90% of all the assets, right? Or have that exposure to equities, have that exposure to real estate. So it's true, and all of you would agree. I mean, it's just the facts. The markets, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones Industrial Average has been on a rip since the bottom of the financial crisis, right? We've had corrections along the way, but in terms of duration, right, the duration of those corrections have been extremely muted as opposed to corrections past. And that's really benefited the top 10%. So yeah, a rip-roaring stock market is great. I mean, we all did fantastic. I think I had my best year ever under the Biden administration. One of the most fiercely strong bull markets I've ever traded through was 2024. So just use that as a little bit of a warning on a go forward for volatility expectations for the market, because you have a Treasury Secretary that is coming out here and telegraphing the market and saying, look, we are going to go through an adjustment period, and to use his terminology, a detox period, right? If you cut government spending, if you lay off a bunch of government employees, that is going to send shockwaves through the economy. It just is. It is. So I thought that was really pressing to mention. So I will say one more time, if you have spare time this weekend, go ahead and listen to that interview with Scott Bessent. Okay, with that being said, let's see who we got in the audience. I see our good friend Peter says in the last 4 years, much of the employment was added government jobs, so it is good to thin them out now as we could afford them. On average, it takes about 70 taxpayers to pay for one added government job, says Peter. Jack Jackson is here. Welcome. Oh, Harry says, I just finished the Lincoln Center walk. Very nice. Yeah, I really like putting up those standalone videos because we do this broadcast at night, and the city is a completely different experience during the day, and I want to share that with all of you. And the Upper West Side of Manhattan is fantastic. So usually around, I think, 7 o'clock at night, I'll upload those standalone videos. Laced Mushroom is here. Happy Friday to you. Music to relax and unwind says, what happened yesterday? Any issues? No issues here. Thank you for your donation, by the way. I think I missed it. I appreciate the support, and hopefully you have a wonderful weekend. I see E-Bike Mike. What's going on, E-Bike Mike? JC is here, says hello, Tom, and future Bitcoin holders. We'll talk about that too. For those of you who don't know, today was a very, very big day at the White House. There was the Digital Asset Summit with President Trump. We'll talk about that. Also, David Sachs, who is the crypto czar and the AI czar, had a few favorable words for the administration. mainly in the context of regulation, newfound regulation for the crypto space. B-Ball says, did you say that $150,000 in household income places you in the top 10% of earners in America? Yes, it does. It does. It's kind of crazy to think about, right? And oftentimes being in a major city like New York, with everything being so crazy and hectic, it's kind of, we'll wait till the nonsense music drives by. It's kind of easy to take things for granted and not be appreciative of things, right? And I think this goes for all Americans. If you just have a regular, good job, you are much better off than about 90% of the world's population, right? So just being born in the West, not even just America, but Canada, Mexico, whatever you want to call it, our standards of living, our quality of life, access to services, clean drinking water, right? It's a real big blessing. So I think amongst all the crazy, political back and forth, this election season was pretty brutal, kind of however you feel. We are very, very blessed to be in America. That is for sure, my friends. There was a few notable people at the Digital Asset Summit. You had both Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss, who are the founders of the cryptocurrency company Gemini. And they've made an announcement, or a preliminary announcement. They've said that they will probably take Gemini public via IPO. They haven't filed anything yet, but that initial public offering is coming. So that's definitely one to watch. I think if Gemini goes public, that'll probably be way down the line. That'll probably open the floodgates for more crypto-centric companies to be brought public in the public markets, which is always great. Who else was there? We had Michael Saylor, who's the CEO of MicroStrategy, which he pretty much gets a lot of the credit for giving this strategic reserve idea to President Trump. You also had David Sachs there, and you had the CEO of Coinbase joining in on the party. So, hey, Julia M., thanks for joining. So I think, to kind of summarize, we won't spend too much time on the Digital Assets Summit because we did talk about it ad nauseum yesterday, but it's kind of, skate to where the puck is going, and the tokenization of everything is going to come to the economy. And I think it's very risky to fight that trend. Even just a broker-dealer and an exchange like Robinhood, right, ticker symbol HOOD, the CEO of Robinhood, Vlad, has come out and said there will be a day where you will be able to buy and sell real estate on the platform. And reading between the lines, that essentially means the tokenization of everything. And I believe him. I think that Robinhood is going to do that. I've written many, I guess you could say, reports about Robinhood, and I believe they are the Charles Schwab of the Gen Z generation. If you kind of look at the growth trajectory of Charles Schwab, kind of overlay that with the early growth of Robinhood, and I think you could have a significant upside potential there for Robinhood. Hey, Brad's Brains, his labor numbers were good today. Wait till government numbers hit. Just wonder if Jerry is going to wait too long as he likes to. Yeah, I mean, there was 10,000 government jobs lost. So the report showed a loss of about 10,000 federal jobs. Now, the interesting thing is a lot of the experts who were on CNBC today and Bloomberg, many of the economists said that that wasn't even the really big number because the vast majority of the Doge layoffs, so to speak, are not even going to show up until March. So there could be another major red mark for the March non-farm payrolls report. As we kind of spoke about, Scott Besson says we are going to be going into an adjustment period for the economy. Cameron, good to see you. Thank you so much for your very generous $5 donation. It says, Tom, do you watch Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly? I would say I'm the occasional consumer of Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly. Well, I'll take that back. I don't really watch anything from Megyn Kelly. But yeah, I'll listen to the Joe Rogan podcast every once in a while. If I see somebody of interest on, if something's interesting, I'll pop it on. But yeah, thank you for your support and your donation. Liz says, darn, I chose between Robinhood and Coinbase. I chose Coinbase. Well, I'm very optimistic on Coinbase as well, because you have to understand the institutional business for Coinbase and the custodial business for Coinbase, right? Now, this is the main key, and many of you already brought this up yesterday. The bullish sentiment isn't really about, we have a Bitcoin strategic reserve, right? That's really not it. And there's many people within the crypto and Bitcoin space that were throwing a hissy fit this week, saying, what? The strategic Bitcoin reserve, they're not even going to be buying Bitcoin. They're just going to take Bitcoin that they've already seized and just promise not to sell it. This is ridiculous. To which I say, no, it's not ridiculous. That is a very tempered, reasonable thing to do, right? The Bitcoin that we have seized, we usually sell, right? We talked about Tim Draper acquired the lion's share of his Bitcoin from the US government. What we don't want to do is use taxpayer funds to speculate on cryptocurrencies. I think that's ridiculous. What is the appropriate thing to do is I think what the administration has done, right? Taking those 200,000 Bitcoin, they will establish a strategic reserve, in which case they will not sell. And the only circumstance in which they will acquire more Bitcoin is if it doesn't have an impact to the taxpayer. I think that is a net positive. I think a lot of the people who are saying that they're disappointed and they want the government to just buy Bitcoin, I think those are tourists. And when I use the term tourists, it means people that aren't really in the space. They probably just came here a year ago. They probably bought Bitcoin recently and they just want to make a quick buck. Not interested in those people, right? I'm interested in the long-term sustainability of the space and to achieve a regulatory framework. I honestly could give two, rips about the strategic reserve, to be quite honest. What I'm more interested in is the coming of the real regulatory framework of the industry, so that capital creation will happen in the United States of America. Businesses will be able to come here, come public, and it'll be an entirely new, thriving market, just like any other market. So I would say, don't pay attention to a lot of the banter back and forth. That's kind of what I would say. Cameron, thank you so much for your $5 donation. Says, what are your thoughts on Amway? People think it's a good company. Other people think it's a company built on ripping people off. Amway. I don't think I've ever heard of the company, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I've never heard of the company. Feel free to let me know what they do, but I'm not familiar. So I can't answer your question. I apologize for that. But I am not familiar. I think everybody's in line to get Saturday Night Live tickets. Very cool. Julia M says, Tom, what do you think of Scott Besson, and do you think we are headed to a recession to squash or an engineered recession to squash inflation? I would say yes and no. I am a huge fan of Scott Besson. One of the things I said at the beginning of the live stream is that if you have time this weekend, it is a requirement, it is a must to watch that interview. I think it was a CNBC interview with Scott Besson. And essentially what he said, to use his words, is that the U.S. economy needs a detox from public spending, which is true. The United States government, and this isn't a Democrat issue, this isn't a Republican issue, this is just our country's issue, so I'm not blaming either side. Both sides are at fault. Okay, I just like to, set that precedent, because I do get some rather nasty emails, which is okay. The nasty emails are fine, but just don't send me any death threats. Like, chill out, okay? We could have a difference of political opinion. You could call me whatever you want. Call me a skell, call me a scumbag, but just don't, freak out or anything. All right, with that being said, it's true. If you think about the stock market returns since the lows of the 2008 financial crisis, they've been unreal. They've been great. If anybody here has owned real estate, it's been fantastic, right? The problem is the top 10% of Americans own 90% of all the assets. That means they have the vast majority of equity exposure. That means they have the vast majority of real estate exposure. So when those assets go up, the top 10% get extremely wealthy, and everybody else doesn't really benefit to a rising stock market. So one of the things Scott Besson said is much of those gains in the market have been caused by public spending or government spending. It is very stimulative to an economy to have government spending, which is not sustainable growth, right? That's kicking the can down the road, so to speak. If we just continue to spend and spend and spend and run up our deficits and run up our national debt, at some point, that is going to come home to roost, okay? It's just, this administration is playing hot potato with that one. So what he said is we want to have a transitionary period where we wane the U.S. government, or we wane the U.S. economy off of public spending and bring it back to private spending and private capital creation. But that is going to cause some turbulence, which may cause a recession, which may cause a drawdown in the stock market, right? If you reduce government spending, if you cut federal jobs, if you lay people off, if the unemployment rate goes up, economic growth will suffer, will falter. And there is a high correlation between GDP growth and the directional bias of the S&P 500. So I think, again, kind of what I said at the very, very beginning, it's going to be short-term pain and long-term gain for the economy. But that's not how it was pitched to the American people, though, to be fair. Hey, JC, thank you so much for your 40 South African Rand donation. This is one thing I like about the BTC reserve thing, is that it makes banning BTC more difficult worldwide. That's a very good point. I never thought about that frame. I've never thought about that frame before. Because you're right. Most countries look to the USA for direction in terms of their regulatory oversight. So that is a really good point. I think it'll definitely help grow adoption. But, my whole thing with everybody kind of being upset about it is they're upset that, Trump didn't announce that he's going to buy, 1 Bitcoin a month, with taxpayer dollars. That is, if Trump did that, I would be very upset, because that is what you would call degeneracy, and that is what you would call irresponsible. This strategic reserve shouldn't have anything to do with being funded by the taxpayer, particularly as our national debt is, 34 trillion now? We shouldn't be spending any money on the credit card to buy Bitcoin, okay? So I think this couldn't have been played out better, right? The Bitcoin that has already been seized by the US government, we just put it into a digital Fort Knox, so to speak, and we don't sell that Bitcoin. We use it as an asset, right? That is fantastic. That is great. Because the Bitcoin that the US government has sold, the capital gains on that the taxpayers missed out on, is north of $17 billion. Cameron, thank you so much for your $10 donation. This is Tom Amway, was found guilty of defrauding the government of India. They spent billions of dollars getting out of lawsuits and been investigated by multiple agencies. Yeah, I don't know what the company is, to be honest. I can't really provide more color on it. I'll take a screenshot of this and I will do some more diligence on it, but I just have no idea what it is. But in that case, I think your previous question was, is the company reputable, or is it a scam, or should you stay away? Well, based upon your sources, that they're being, what did they say? What did you say? They're being sued? Or they were fined by the Indian government? Then yeah, I probably wouldn't do business with the company. But again, I have no idea what they do. I have no idea what this is. I would say trust your gut, right? If you, I wouldn't want to. If I was going to do business with the company, and they're trying to get me to do some investment or something, and then I see all these open cases about, them getting fined by nations, I would say no. Hey, Cosmo, what's going on? Thank you so much. Hopefully you're well. Happy Friday. Guys, check out Steinway Tower tonight. It looks great. I mean, what do you guys think, right? I mean, I think over the past 4 or 5 nights, I've been really hammering everybody with my thoughts, but I want to know your thoughts. What do you think of Scott Bessent? Do you think his projections, right, that the economy has been working for the very, very top 10%, and they want to now focus on the bottom 90%, and if that means that the stock market may need to take a hit because we go through an adjustment period, that's kind of what we're going to have to do. I mean, what are your thoughts? Agree, disagree? I'm kind of more interested in what you guys have to say. This is the Hilton flagship hotel. Ooh. Holy crap. Oh my God, I think they just hit and run that guy. Oh, fuck. Did he just run over that guy? Maybe I got his license plate. And maybe see if anybody could rewind that, because if he just ran over and killed that guy and I got his license plate, I should probably end the stream and give it to the police officers. If anybody can rewind, I'm not sure if you guys can rewind the stream. See if you can, because that is insane. I'm trying to zoom in and see if this guy got up. Let's see. I didn't see it. I just saw him. I just heard him peeling out, and I turned around. Holy crap! You really got to watch it, man. I don't understand how people could be so brazen and so reckless. Just totally have no consideration for somebody's life. Crazy. It was definitely a Jeep. I know that for sure. Whew. Oh, I think he's up, but he's a little rattled. When people peel off like that, that probably means that, I'm just going to call it like it is. I know a lot of NYPD officers in the city. They're probably illegal immigrants who don't have any insurance. It's just the truth. It may sound harsh, but it's the truth. I know a lot of cops in the city and you'd be surprised. Well, hopefully he's all right. He looks like he's making a recovery. You really got to watch yourself. I feel like there should be police cameras on every corner. Anyway, yeah, GNSs aren't there, traffic cameras at each intersection. I think most, I want to say most. I mean, there should be definitely at this one, because this corner right here is where they murdered the CEO of United Healthcare. So I would assume there would be a big police camera. Oh yeah, there is, right here. So for sure, that Jeep made the turn, and there's a big NYPD camera there. So well, you always got to keep your head on a swivel in New York. You know, one other thing from the non-farm payrolls report that I'd like to note, did anybody notice the abnormal reduction or the loss of jobs in the restaurant sector, like bars and restaurants? Because if you remember from past live streams, that was usually, you know, a major bright spot in the non-farm payrolls report. You know, job growth in the food services, restaurants, and bars. But food service, restaurants, and bars lost 27,500 jobs last month. Again, not to get, you know, ruffle anybody's feathers, but do you think there's a correlation, or do you think this is a stretch? Do you think there is a correlation between the potential all the deportations, the crackdown on immigration in the United States, and the loss of these restaurant sector jobs? Because why such a drastic change, right? That used to be a major sector of growth. So I have no evidence, I have no data to suggest that there's a correlation, but potentially it's a coincidence. Mark Francis says yes. Cosmos says definitely. Jess says there'll be data in a few months. Jeez. I mean, you know, to be fair, the food delivery bicycle guys, a lot of them are like kamikazes. I can't tell you how many accidents I've seen in the bike lanes in 2024. They go way too fast, and oftentimes they drive on the wrong side of the road and crash into each other. It's crazy. Yeah, someone says the hard thing about a hit and run is that you can't really prove it unless you catch them in the act. That's what's so good about Teslas, because a Tesla, the cameras are always rolling. Anybody ever see those funny videos about, you know, those San Francisco carjackings or people who break the windows of all the vehicles in San Francisco? And Tesla records them doing that because you have all the cameras and all the sensors. So I would argue that a Tesla is probably one of the safest cars to drive. I mean, that's another topic for conversation. Tesla, I mean, whether you like Elon Musk or whether you hate Elon Musk or whether you're bullish Tesla or whether you're bearish Tesla, his political presence has been a net negative on the company. And that shows up in the sales numbers, particularly across Europe and specifically in Germany. If you guys are following me on the X platform, oftentimes throughout the day, I'll post interesting things I read throughout the day, and I kind of use my X feed as my notepad so that I can come back to it, and review it. And sales numbers of Teslas are taking a significant hit. Now, the opposing side of the argument would be, well, sales numbers are down because everybody's waiting for the new Model 3. I don't know about that. We'll see. Time will tell. Or is it the new Model 3 or is it the upgraded Model Y? I forget. Maybe one of you could refresh. Brad's Brain says it's ridiculous that folks argue nobody will pick fruit now or work construction. Well, sorry you don't have your slave wage labor anymore. It may just cost more. I mean, you're not wrong, right? Which is kind of a tough conversation to have because, nobody likes to call it like it is and say it, but a lot of the illegal immigration, in my opinion, is exploited for low wages. Because if somebody comes to the United States and they're undocumented, right, they don't have any papers, well, they really have no pricing power in the free marketplace. Does that make sense? Because they can't go to their boss and say, no, I want a raise. Because then the boss would say, oh, you want a raise? Well, then you could leave the country. So they take below market wages. So, I mean, it's definitely a conversation to have. And that's something that I argue. The United States, if we want to get into a big kind of history lesson about the shift from a manufacturing-centric economy to a services sector economy, the U.S. essentially gave that up. Okay, the U.S. wanted manufacturing to go overseas. That's what a lot of people don't understand. That is why we have our big services boom and our big tech and software boom in the United States is because we purposely exported our manufacturing overseas. Because U.S. consumers, just being blunt, they want cheap products. They want affordable, cheap products. And by manufacturing your product overseas or in China, or in Vietnam, where they pay significantly less, well, that's how you're able to get your products extremely cheap. So we have sacrificed that. It was like a give and take. It was a trade-off. But if you let that go on too long, which we have, it's very, very hard to reverse that, right? I was telling you, this place is new. I've never been to this rooftop lounge here, but I believe it is inside the hotel, or a part of the hotel. NBA Elias, good to see you. Happy Friday to you. Hopefully you're doing well. Yeah, Peter, the auction house is right inside the retail of 111 West 57th Street, which is the Steinway Tower. That seems like a growing trend in Billionaires Row buildings. As you know, you have the Phillips auction house right in the retail of 432 Park Avenue, and now here you have another auction house at 111 West 57th Street. It seems very fitting, right, for a lot of those high-profile Billionaires Row buildings. Anyway, if you guys are enjoying the stream, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. I see Professor Dario joining us. Oh, Professor, I wanted to email you about something interesting I was reading this week as it relates to Argentina. Specifically the oil and gas shale fracking boom that could potentially happen in Argentina. I'm obviously not too well versed in it, but you living there. I'll send you the article and let me know your thoughts. Because apparently, many experts are saying that there could be a huge fracking boom in Argentina now that regulations are going to be lifted or something like that. I didn't get a chance to read the whole article, but I saved it, and I will read it this weekend. I think you're right. Professor says vaca muerta. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I believe it is correct. I see Michelle Henry here, flat smack. Cheers. Richard says farmers are going to automate crop harvesting more and more. You're really seeing that across sectors too. This is the Russian tea room. And across the street you have 157 and the Park Hyatt Hotel. I always like this view. 220 Central Park South and Central Park Tower. Anybody know when the scaffolding is going to come down on Carnegie Hall? Because the building is really beautiful, as you can tell. You can see some of the facade here, but it seems as if this restoration project has been going on for years. Look at that. They're even kind of repairing this too. Wow, hang with Mark Mom. That's awesome that you're doing that. This is Tom. I'm helping out our free food haul tomorrow. They wiped us out last month. We fed over 800 families. That's amazing. Good on you for doing that. I think I'll have to start to get involved in things similar. Is it just me, or for a Friday night in New York City, does it kind of feel a little bit dead? Or at least a little bit slow? To me it does. Maybe everybody went to South Florida for now. Brad's brain says I was looking at Tesla today. Gonna have to pull the trigger. So I'm waiting for a follow-through day, as you know. I think on the major indices, with kind of the damage that's been done, once we get a follow-through day, I'll step back in the market with a few of my top ideas and see if it works. Now, this is the interesting thing about a transitioning period from a correction back into an uptrend. You kind of have to be willing to get whipped out of some stock here, right? Once you get the follow-through day, you have to commit at least some capital to your top ideas, but not every single follow-through day leads to a new uptrend. But there has never been the start of a new uptrend without a follow-through day. So sometimes in very, very harsh bear markets, if anybody remembers the 2022 bear, it took over 8 follow-through days for the uptrend to be durable. And that means you got whipped in and out of a lot of stock. That was a very, very difficult time. But if you stick with it and you cut your loss, you preserve your capital, one of those follow-through days is going to work, and the market is going to take off, and you can ladder up and in and build and grow your positions. There has been a lot of distribution in a lot of the big TMLs. right? We've talked about NVIDIA. Pretty much all of the major Mag 7 stocks are trading below their 50 and 200-day moving averages. But we'll see. I think there's a lot of opportunity. This correction, and corrections are bullish, by the way, right? Markets just don't go up in a straight line. If you've been paying attention, 2024 was an unbelievable year. The market performance in 2024 was unbelievable. I feel like I've just been getting on the live stream every night throughout 2024 and saying the S&P 500 hit a new all-time record high today, the NASDAQ hit a new all-time record high, and the Dow hit a new all-time record high. Same thing with Bitcoin and gold. It was like every day, an everyday occurrence. Corrections in the market set us up for unbelievable opportunities to compound out our wealth, right? So you should welcome these pullbacks in the market, welcome these corrections, because it will allow us to get back into really, really good names as they start to form bases again. That's how wealth is created, right? Over time, through compounding. Ellie says, Tom, has New York gotten better or worse? On what time frame? On what time frame, I would say? On the 8-year time frame, I would say quality of life has gotten worse in New York, just being honest. On the short-term time frame of about a year, I think things have improved significantly. So the last year, things have improved significantly in New York City in terms of quality of life. But overall, over the last 8 years, quality of life has gone down. The best way I could explain it is if you have a ton of money in New York City is the best place in the world to live if you're rich. It's one of the worst places in the world to live if you're not and if you're struggling, because everything is so expensive here. Right? It kind of goes back to the conversation that we had of the top 10% of income earners in America now account for 49% of all the spending or the consumption. You really see the wealth divide in New York. You really, really see it. You also see it, I'm assuming, in San Francisco and all major cities. But I'm optimistic about New York. And over the last year, New York has gotten significantly better. Trust me. Significantly. Shell says, how to weather a recession if there is one. Stay out of debt and live within your means, and you will not feel the recession, in my opinion. I agree, but sometimes it's hard for people, I definitely get what you're saying. NBA Lies says, Tom, it's interesting how the noise around Deepseek has gone away a bit during the correction. I would agree, but you know what's also interesting, which I think you might agree with, around Deepseek? Now, who remembers, I guess I'll, obviously expand the conversation, everybody, but who remembers specifically right when Deepseek dropped, it was pandemonium. The narrative was CapEx spending is going to crater and plummet, because the hyperscalers like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, they're going to find new ways to reduce CapEx spending because DeepSeek was made with $6 million. What we know now, and this is from reporting from the Financial Times, it just came out this week, by the way, from an investigative report coming out of the Financial Times, an NVIDIA server, a server with up to 6 NVIDIA chips can resell on the black market in China for upwards of $600,000, a significant premium. And what they found is that Chinese companies are creating shell companies in Malaysia, in Singapore, and in Taiwan, placing orders for these NVIDIA chips, using the shell company to then resell to companies in mainland China to then build these AI tools. So it's funny to me how everybody on Wall Street will totally not believe anything that comes out of the Communist Chinese Party in terms of their GDP growth, in terms of many companies' corporate earnings. But they were so quick to believe that they were able to build, right, or a Chinese company was able to build a superior product to ChatGPT, to Gemini, to all the other AI chatbots, Perplexity, on $6 million, right? Everybody just believed it. Now, I don't get this confused. I think Deepseek is an unbelievable product. I think Deepseek is a fantastic product. We actually had I think it was the chief technology officer of Saudi Aramco, which is one of the most valuable companies in the entire world, come out and say that they're using Deepseek right now to increase their operational efficiencies, and they love it. So don't get those two statements conflated. I'm not trying to say that Deepseek is a terrible product, because it's not. It's a great product. What I'm trying to say is they didn't spend $6 million to build it, okay? Add a few more zeros at the end of that. And they are using NVIDIA chips to build their product. And this is a way for them to circumvent a lot of the export controls that the U.S. has put in place. So I do not believe the narrative that you'll see a extremely broad-based collapse in CapEx spending amongst Amazon, Microsoft, and the like. If anything, those companies have come out and have actually reiterated their spending targets, which are significantly higher than last year. Does anybody have any additional thoughts on that, or has anybody seen that report out of the Financial Times about these shell companies in Malaysia being used to purchase and circumvent those export controls? Or if anybody has any specific industry expertise here, I would love to know your opinion. Hey, Scott Solomon, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Hey, Check the Logic, thanks for joining us as well. E-Bike Mike says, I agree. It's going to be interesting to see how the current administration handles China. It's going to be interesting. Mark Francis 076 says, hey Tom, my friend who's a programmer says Deepseek is pretty good, but he still uses OpenAI's ChatGPT. Cliff Padilla says, I haven't read the Financial Times in a long time. Same here. I actually had a personal issue with the Financial Times, which has been resolved. That is why I am now reading the Financial Times again. In addition, I think it broadens your worldview a little bit more, because the lion's share of articles in the Financial Times are not about the United States. And I think it's important to really get a grasp on global markets, what's going on in Latin America, what's going on in Asia, and what's going on in Europe, particularly if you want to do business over there, which, oh, that was a close call. So I would say the Financial Times is good for articles to understand, to expand your worldview. That's what I would say. Matthew says, Tom, what about Argentina? I'm really bullish on Argentina, but I was very disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I have to be honest and fair. I was very, very disappointed with Argentina over the last month. Milei should have never gotten involved in the fraudulent meme coin that he put out. It really, really tarnished his reputation, even with me. He was pretty much doing everything perfectly. You don't have to get involved in that nonsense. So that was very disappointing. Andy says, is the Financial Times who you were writing for? No, I wasn't writing for anybody. It's totally unrelated. It has to do with a totally separate business venture. Hey, Cycle Trade, what's going on? Thanks for joining us. And happy Friday. Now, guys, this is 15 Central Park West. This is the Limestone Building, or the Limestone Jesus, as they call it. This is a Robert A.M. Stern building. And one thing that a lot of people don't know is that the facade of that building was constructed with 85,000 individual pieces of limestone. Now, that's not the cool part. The cool part is they procured the limestone from the same exact Indiana rock quarry that was used to construct the Empire State Building. So, really amazing stuff. And here you have the Trump International Hotel and Tower, which is an amazing property, an amazing hotel, by the way. Very expensive, but it is an amazing hotel nonetheless. Brad's bringing says people in Alaska go days on end with daylight and days on and with dark. We will adjust to not changing clocks. It needs to happen. Oh yeah, what's going on with that, everybody? The daylight savings time, something like that? I don't know anything about it. Enlighten me. Do we want to get rid of it or do we want to keep it? What do we want to do? NBA Elias says, Tom, I wonder who advised him to get involved in that meme coin disaster. Apparently it was like a kid. It was like a teenager, I think, that advised him to do that. At least that's what I read. I read like maybe a paragraph article on it, but it was like a kid that advised him to do that. Terrible lapse in judgment there. Josh L. spring forward all year. Mark Francis 076 says, I hope we get rid of daylight savings time. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know which is which, but I like it when the sun is setting at like 9 o'clock at night. I can't stand getting out of work and it's pitch black. 4 o'clock, 4:50, and it's getting dark out. That's depression. At least for me. I won't speak for anybody else, but I get severe seasonal depression. It's not like I'm depressed, but you feel lethargic. You get irritable a little bit during the summer. That's one of the main reasons why I had to buy a place in Miami, because I just couldn't take it. So I am in favor for whatever allows the sun to set at 9 p.m. There's nothing like a New York City summer night when you could walk around, hang out, everybody's, eating outside, it's 9 p.m. It's amazing. New York City is the best place to be in the summer. Hang with Mark Mom says I get up early. I've been starting to get up much, much earlier than usual. And one of my New Year's resolutions was to get back into a very regimented workout routine. Because ever since I left college, I haven't really been lifting. But in college, I used to lift a lot, because we had to. I played on my college's soccer team, so we had to do like mandatory lifting and all that stuff. But I kind of got away from that because I was just working all the time. So I'm now on a very, very regimented workout routine. So I do about a 20-minute swim every morning. My new building has a pool, so I do a 20-minute swim. Then I do about a 30-minute run on the treadmill at speed 8.5. And then I do my lifting, and then I shower, and then I go to work. But I would still consider myself a night person. Who here in the chat is... are you guys... Would you consider yourself a morning person or a night owl? Oh, Clarence. Yeah, you're right. That's on top of the new Xtel building, right? Clarence Jackson, that's the 50 West 66th Street. Maybe we'll go there tonight. LB says night owl, I hate mornings. Ha! Brad says mornings should be banned. Alan says a mix of both. My work day starts at 4:30 a.m. But I can't get out of bed earlier than 10:30 or 11. Damn, 4:30 is early. 4:30 is like crazy early. Mike G says night person. Psycho Trades is morning. Interesting. I'm trying to become more of a morning person, but I feel as if I get my best work done at night. Like I could toil away to like 3 o'clock in the morning. That's kind of when I get my best focus. But anyway, welcome to Lincoln Center, everybody. We are now headed towards Manhattan's Upper West Side. And Lincoln Center is looking beautiful tonight. This is on the corner of 64th Street and Broadway. You're looking at the Empire Hotel sign. And maybe I want to show you guys a new development. This is one of the most exciting new projects in New York City right now, and I'm going to take you there. And you know it's a good project when Xtel is on it. Now, I was reading a little bit about the architect today. So if you guys kind of want to follow along, you could just Google 50 West 66th or 65th. I'll read you the address in a second. I think it's 50 West 65th Street. And the design of the building was designed after a chiseled rock. So, you know, back in the day when you would take like a hammer and you would just chip away at a rock until it breaks, that's supposed to be what the building looks like. And you can kind of see it from some of the renderings. And we're going to go there right now. And it's selling really, really well. And there's been virtually no marketing. But it's still selling very, very well. Hey, Michael says, love your channel. I am subscribed. Florida was like a dream. New York, as I said, I intended to look around. Oh, very cool. Cheers from the UK. Well, I'm glad you're here, and thanks for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying New York City. Sam Oliver. Yeah, Sam, you did. I think that deserves some recognition, right? I think good calls deserve recognition. That is true. Sam Oliver, I remember specifically you in the chat kind of saying that you think Tesla's going to 250, which was pretty much the exact opposite of my price target. I was in Tesla as it was breaking out over the top, and I had to blow my entire position out. But I'll get back in that name when it gets engaged, because usually what happens is when a stock breaks out into new highs, that's when the move usually just starts. But in this case, obviously, we have a lot more variables at play. I severely miscalculated the damage that Elon's involvement in government played on the company. So yeah, I think that deserves recognition for sure. Yeah, this was a great call. All right, it is on 60. It is on 66th. So we're going to make a right here on 66th Street. I will say this though, the major indices are extremely oversold right now. And usually that creates a perfect environment for very harsh snapback rallies. Usually the greatest percentage gain rallies happen during market corrections. All right, here's the building. Check it out. This is that new Xtel building. 50 West 66th Street. You got to check out the renderings online. It's amazing. Amazing. I think this building will probably have the best views. Could you imagine the view of Billionaires Row from here? I mean, you're right on Central Park West. You're overlooking the Upper East Side of Manhattan. It's incredible. Hey, GM, thank you so much. Says, hey, Tom, I've been watching your videos for 3 or 4 years. You've been so informative and faithful. Thank you. My name is Gerald. Thank you, Gerald. Appreciate the kindness. And I appreciate the support. Thank you for being here for all these years. Now, it's a little bit too dark. Maybe I'll have to come up here. I just posted a video of the Upper West Side during the day. So if you want to see what the building looks like during the day, please, by all means, go ahead and watch our video section. So we do live streams every day at 8:30, but I also post standalone 4K videos during the day, so you can see what the city looks like during the day. And that building is unbelievable. So either Google some of the renderings online of that building, 50 West 66th Street. And let me know if you can see the resemblance of a chiseled stone. Alan says, Tom, I sent you a DM on X about a story I saw today. Don't want to share publicly. You will understand why. I'll check it out. Now I'm excited. I may have to end the stream right now to check it out. I'll read it tonight. Thank you, though. Appreciate it. Hey, Ipadilla, what's going on? Good evening. We just had a conversation about the non-farm payrolls today. The U.S. economy added 151,000 jobs below expectations, and we had a net negative of 10,000 federal jobs. So government jobs are getting slashed. We also talked about Scott Bessent essentially telling us that to expect volatility, to expect a period of adjustment, while the administration tries to transition the U.S. economy off of dependence on public spending. So if you haven't seen that interview with Scott Bessent, I would highly recommend you watch it, because he essentially echoed a lot of the things that we've been saying for months right here on the stream, that 10% of income earners in America now make up 49% of the consumption, which means that the top 10% of Americans are the ones who are doing good in terms of owning stocks and owning real estate that's being inflated off the back of government spending. So as they cut government spending, as they try to slash the deficit, and as they cull and lay off federal employees, that is naturally going to take a blow to the economy. We may have, a quarter or two of negative GDP growth, in which case the market would falter. But in the long-term benefit of turning the economy onto public spending as opposed to government spending. Interesting stuff. Oh, and we had the Digital Assets Summit today at the White House. Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss were there in the Oval Office. Well, not the Oval Office, at the White House. Gemini, they've alluded to the fact that Gemini is going to go public. They will file for their IPO. And we will get a new regulatory framework for the space. Looks like something's getting out of Lincoln Center here. It's me, Kyle. This is the Scott Besson interview on YouTube. It may be. I was watching it today. It was either with CNBC or some other publication. But I get all of my news and all of my videos and stuff from the X platform. And if you have X, just type in Scott Besson and you're going to see the videos pop up. What I can do is, once I conclude the stream, I can go find the link and I can put it in the comments so everybody can go and look and check it out. Well, I think we found out where all the people were. We were just saying that the city looks rather dead. And it looks like everybody was at Lincoln Center. Brad's brain is asking where the Besson interview was. I'm going to DM you on X. But, you have an X account. If you just type in Scott Besson, all of those videos are going to pop up. But I will send it to you via DM, or I'll tag you in it. Hey, Daniel says, good evening, Tom. And everyone, that building is really amazing. The design was developed by... you're correct. I just don't want to butcher the pronunciation, but you are correct. That is who designed it. I was looking into it today. I think they also did some work on I was about to say Oculus. No, not the Oculus. The top of One Vanderbilt, the observation deck. I think they did some work on that too. Now, the reason why I like that building is because it has 2 sets of balconies, one on either side of the building. Let's see if we can see it from here. No, you can't see it at all from here, actually. That's okay. But yeah, check it out. The balconies are very interestingly placed. It almost kind of reminds me of the balconies that are at 1000 Museum. If anybody's familiar with the Zaha Hadid building in Miami, very, very similar. The balcony placements. Obviously, with that, you're overlooking the beautiful waters of Miami. Here, you're overlooking Central Park. We have our good friend here out and about from Canada. I see Steph UF. Good to see you. Rick says, Tom, seems like New York City and California, San Francisco especially, are still growing the next big companies. Seems like Texas and Florida. Relo obsession hasn't helped in that regard. I would disagree. I would definitely disagree with that. But 2 things can be true at once. You have great companies coming out of New York City and San Francisco, but you've seen a real explosion in South Florida specifically. But in terms of overall VC investment, you can't even compare the VC funding that's coming out of Silicon Valley, the San Francisco Bay Area. That's always going to be number one. Regardless of the, fecal matter splattered all over the street, which really is a testament to San Francisco. Imagine how amazing that place would be if they cleaned up the city. And that's one of the reasons why over the past year and a half, I've been kind of pounding the table saying, if you can afford to buy in San Francisco, you should be buying in San Francisco right now. I think if they solve the homelessness and the crime problem, you're going to see a lot of that property re-rate right back to where it was at the peak and probably even superseding that. So I am overly optimistic, the San Francisco Bay Area. What do you guys think of Lincoln Center? Hey, Andy is here. 안녕하세요. Joan Jamal Bonet. Rix is more optimistic on San Francisco than New York City. Over what time frame? I think you're going to see a larger bounce back in San Francisco because property values in terms of residential real estate haven't really taken all that much of a hit in Manhattan. San Francisco is another story. So I think you have more upside potential in San Francisco. And it also depends on what you're buying. But generally speaking, yes, I would say San Francisco. I just wish I had an expertise in the neighborhood. I'm just not familiar with the local area in San Francisco. So I would say if you are from the San Francisco Bay Area, I would be shopping real estate every weekend. It's beautiful in there, isn't it? Now, one thing I'm super excited about, in the summer, they have the outdoor opera right here at Lincoln Center. So they'll set up this massive kind of jumbotron here, and you could watch the operas outside for free in the summer, which is great. All right, we'll make our way back. Hey, Florida boy in Atlanta, thanks for joining us. I know I'm spending a lot of time at Lincoln Center, but it's very mesmerizing, the building. In person, I could assure you it's much nicer looking. I just really like the energy of the city. I mean, I don't know what time it is right now, probably 10 o'clock at night? And just having so many people out Friday night, it's not that freezing. Let's go take a look at the fountain. What's up, Williams? Greetings from Pennsylvania. Welcome to Lincoln Center. I'll give you guys a little bit of ASMR Lincoln Center fountain. Oh, that's right. I did see that. That was crazy news coming out of South Korea. There was a really freak accident. There were about 4 500-pound bombs that were dropped from 2 F-15 fighter jets on a civilian populace. Thank God, I think only like 15 people were injured. That's still a lot. But what was more concerning is imagine if those bombs were accidentally dropped on North Korea. I mean, we would be in World War III right now. So, accidents happen, but that seems to be a pretty crazy accident. So I have a really good friend who was stationed in South Korea at the Osan Air Base. And he was in the Air Force. He was a TAC-P. I forget what the acronym stands for, but I believe it's a part of the U.S. Air Force Special Forces. TAC-P, tactical something. And essentially the job is they parachute behind enemy lines and I guess call in the coordinates for the airstrikes for like the A-10 Warthogs and all that. He was a really good buddy of mine. I went to college with him. He's currently in Agadez, Africa right now. But he was saying it's actually more, it's not like that. It's a huge accident what happened, but he could definitely see how it happened because essentially you're calling up to the the fighter jets to give them the coordinates on where to drop those missiles, right? So if the TAC-P is on the ground and he's calling up and he's giving him the coordinates, even if it's a little bit off, well, that bomb is going to be dropped somewhere else, right? So that's why that job is so important. You really can't be incompetent to do that job, particularly in combat zone, right? I mean, imagine you're taking fire and you're calling in those coordinates. Anyway, but yeah, horrible accident. Hopefully everybody is safe over there, our friends in Korea. We got the light, so let's cross. Now, speaking of the military, did anybody see, or is anybody paying attention what's going on across Europe right now? Essentially, you're having the largest amounts of military spending across Europe that we've seen in decades. And this is really something that our administration wanted, right? They wanted NATO nations to increase the amount of military spending as a percentage of GDP. And it looks like they're doing that, right? This kind of goes back to the negotiating skills and the negotiating tactics, right? If you tell your NATO partners, we may help, we may still fund the war in Ukraine, we may not. Oh, we're going to cut off funding. There's no security guarantee. Well, then that forces NATO nations to increase their own military spending. But if the United States just continued to say in perpetuity, oh yeah, totally, we'll fund the whole thing, we'll bankroll the whole thing, we're going to give you all the security guarantees you need, and we'll back NATO no matter what, well, then there's no incentive for them to ever increase their military spending. But it is quite obvious that this is just jawboning by the administration, and we would always protect our NATO allies under any circumstance. But if you kind of put some uncertainty in there and you say, maybe we will, maybe we won't. Oh, actually, we're not going to fund it anymore. You should maybe increase your own military spending. That kind of gets the ball rolling, right? So that's why you've been seeing a lot of the defense stocks, particularly in Germany, rallying significantly. Now, at the very top of that building there's a really nice restaurant that overlooks into Columbus Circle. I've never been up there, though. But every time I walk down Broadway, I look at it, and I'm very intrigued and I'm very curious about it. I think that's a museum. And we're about to pass the congestion pricing. All right, Cycle Trade, we'll see you soon. Wishing you a wonderful weekend. Try to get some rest. And hopefully it's a little bit warmer where you are. Oh, it looks like somebody's home in the Winter Garden unit at 157. Very cool. Now, Michael Dell, which Dell just reported earnings. It was either last week or the week before. And Michael Dell owns the Winter Garden unit at 157. That's above Bill Ackman's. Lots of sirens tonight in New York.
Thank you for hanging out with me.
This is the Manor and Oriental Hotel. Hey, Patrick, New York. Long time no see. Hopefully you're well. Thanks for joining us. Alan says, do I ever get starstruck walking past? Honestly, I'm sometimes very oblivious. Oftentimes I'll walk past people and I just won't even really recognize who they are. But I think, and I said this at the beginning of the stream, not that many of you care, but I was walking through Trump Tower today and I could have sworn I bumped right into Jared Kushner. Now, it may have just been somebody who looked like him. I don't know if he's even in New York today, but I was like, is that Jared Kushner? I think I'm about 90% sure it was, but then again, just could have been somebody who looked like him. You never know. I think I was very surprised when I ran into Lloyd Blankfein that one night. I mean, he lives right here at 15 Central Park West. Lloyd's a good guy, very aggressive guy, but you kind of have to be aggressive when, if you want to rise to the ranks to be the CEO of one of the most powerful investment banks in the world. Ren 1018. So true. Jack says there's CNN studios right there. I feel like they were. I'm not sure if they're here anymore, but at one point they were 100%. CNN used to be right here. Now, right now I'm working a deal with a very high-profile client that is entangled in our current administration, which I was actually at the meeting today. That was my big meeting today. But I won't speak on it until that is a signed deal. It's quite a big portfolio in New York, but not residential. It's a package of commercial deals, which I'm very excited to work on. Oh, Chris, says Tom, have you seen the interview with Sam Bankman-Fried and Tucker Carlson? I couldn't bring myself to watch it. Do you think it's worth watching? You said it's an interesting watch. You think it's worth watching it? Maybe I'll find the time to watch it this weekend. It's just, Sam Bankman-Fried is just such a creep to me. I just don't trust that guy. So I don't know if I would be interested in hearing anything he has to say, but if you think it's worth it, I'll check it out. But he's a very deceptive guy. And I know people like that. Total sociopaths. The facade, like the whole Sam Bankman-Fried, and this is just my opinion, okay, about the guy. Anytime you have somebody that is, talks like they're the charity tank, is usually the exact opposite of that. They're usually the most greedy, diabolical killers you'll ever meet. So his whole thing of being the little geeky nerd, that I'm just doing this for the enjoyment, I don't care about the money, it's a 180. He's an absolute vulture that will rip somebody's face off for $1. It's the exact opposite. And turns out that's exactly who he was. And people like that are total sociopaths. And I think it might be an actual, mental disorder. So I don't really want to go too hard on him because that behavior is very dangerous, right? Because it's very manipulative. And Sam Bankman-Fried did exactly that. Manipulated all these bimbo celebrities, all these athletes into saying, oh my gosh, I want to align with, FTX. Even manipulated Mr. Wonderful, right? And he should have known better because he's a successful guy, but everybody got greedy because he was greasing everybody's palms. So I don't know if I want to even listen to what he has to say. But maybe I'll watch it. I do think, and this is one thing I've said before about SBF, it is undeniable that he is a genius, right? His IQ level, he is a genius guy. So to have him rot away in prison forever, Is that a good allocation of resources? I don't think so. I would say put him to work doing something in our government, but have his work be very, very closely monitored, and maybe have him run like help us out with our cyber programs or something. I don't know. Yeah, someone says all the sirens are annoying. You kind of get used to it in New York after a while with all the sirens. Kind of get used to it. Hey, Techno Pink, what's up? Techno Pink is our good friend from the Dominican Republic and our management consultant friend from EY. Hope you're well. When are you going to be back in New York, by the way? Any planned trips to New York this summer? This is that dream hotel. This is a really nice looking building. The Dream Hotel. Let's walk past that, what is it, Angelo's Pizza? I haven't been there in like a million years. Now, speaking of SBF, I think he's sharing a jail cell with Sean Combs or P. Diddy. This used to be the headquarters of Bad Boy Entertainment right here. Now, the building is obviously torn down, but this used to be the headquarters of Bad Boy Worldwide, Bad Boy Entertainment right here on 54th Street. I actually saw P. Diddy and his sons a few times. This was when I was maybe like 8 or 9 years old. When I would come to the city with like my grandparents and stuff, they would eat at a lot of these restaurants, and they would dine at like the outdoor dining like over here, because this was, one of their spots. Oh wow, Jimmy says, I used to watch you since I used to live in the Dominican Republic. Been in Brooklyn for a while now and still watching. Oh, cool. Very cool. Thanks for watching. Now, the first time I think I've ever had Dominican food was when I used to work. I was on this job in Brooklyn. It was, I want to say it was right off of Gates Avenue. And there was a lot of Dominican like restaurants, spots. Very cool stuff. Yeah, it was right on Gates Avenue. I remember I used to take the LIRR to Nordstrom Avenue and walk all the way up. Pretty much take the subway tracks, walk all the way up the subway tracks to Gates Avenue. This is Angelo's Pizza here. Yeah, Kurt Floyd. I would be interested in that. I think Ross should go on the Joe Rogan Experience, or any podcast for that matter. That is such a tragedy that Ross was in prison for as long as he was. I'm very, very pleased that President Trump decided to pardon him. Jimmy Tavares. Let me take a screenshot of that. I will take you up on your recommendation. I'll be sure to order that. Stephen Colbert does his show here. Yeah, James is the Silk Road. Trying to be extra cautious when I cross the street after that incident that we caught on camera earlier in the stream. That hit and run accident with the food delivery bike guy. Hope he's all right. I wonder what this building is. It kind of looks like a hotel. Oh, it's the back of the Manhattan Hotel, or the Manhattan Times Square. Ah, I got it. This is Gallagher's Steak. I think this steakhouse right here, Gallagher's, has one of the best business lunch specials in the city. You get what do you get? You get a soup, you get a main, which is like a steak, and then you get a dessert for $38. It's pretty good. If you have any clients, take them there. I think it's slightly less expensive than Del Frisco's business lunch. So if you're traveling to New York, $38 business lunch, I think until 3 p.m. or maybe 3:30, I forget. Right in Gallagher's. It's well worth the money. And the dining room is really nice. Maybe I'll show you what it looks like there. Because they have the dry aging room. We're passing a Duane Reade, which reminds me of the Walgreens deal that just happened. Now, Walgreens is crazy because at its peak market valuation in 2015, it was a $100 billion valuation. Walgreens, as of last traded, was under a $10 billion valuation, and now it was just bought out by a private equity firm. It's going to be taken private for $10 billion, a 90% erosion in value from its peak of 2015. Crazy. So this is that dry aging room at Gallagher's. Hey, Carol H. What's going on? Hopefully you're doing well in Miami. I will be in Miami next week. I'm flying out on Monday. Monday morning, first thing. I'm pretty much getting the first flight out of JFK. So I will be in Miami and Palm Beach for about a week. So this is their dry aging room. What do you guys think? Pretty cool, right? Here's the menu. Let's see if we can zoom in on it. How much do you think all those steaks are worth there? Carol says, nice that you'll be back. Have a nice trip. Yeah, I'm going to visit the showroom again of the new Mandarin Oriental Brickell Key, which I'm excited about. I'm going to preview that. I think next Wednesday I'll be there. If you want to tag along, you're more than welcome. I'm meeting with the sales office there. I think they're having like an open lunch or something. And then I will be at the showroom of the St. Regis in Sunny Isles Beach.
All right. Thank you.
And then I have to visit the Mercedes-Benz residences. In Miami, which is being marketed by Ryan Serhant. This is the Din Tai Fung. Mike says, enjoy your videos from Florida. I want to take a lot more videos from Florida and kind of expand out. I want to try to get to Coconut Grove. I want to try to get down to, or I should say up to Palm Beach a little bit more. Rick says, what do I think of Serhant? I like Ryan a lot. My boss knows him very well. We do a lot of business with his firm. So I will be down there. I think he's probably a better marketer than just about anybody on the planet. I also want to get to Coral Gables. I haven't been to Coral Gables in a long time. I feel like I read an article recently that said Coral Gables is now the most expensive neighborhood in the United States, which is crazy, just the growth that the Gables has gone through. Which I believe is also University of Miami. That's a really nice campus. I haven't been on that campus in a long time as well. Darren says, who's the best marketer I know? Probably him. Probably Ryan. What else is like a nice up-and-coming neighborhood, would you say, in Miami-Dade County? Not really residential, but I like the Design District, and LVMH invested a ton of money into the Design District. Wynwood, too, is quite nice. There's actually a Joe's Pizza now in Wynwood. Larry Adams is Aventura. The Aventura Mall is kind of cool. So I live about, I'm exactly equidistant between Fort Lauderdale Airport and Miami International Airport. But for some reason I always fly out of Miami. I think I've flown out of Fort Lauderdale maybe twice. I'm just not a big fan of the airport. I like Miami International Airport a lot better. Daytona Gauss is what about Jupiter? Not super familiar with Jupiter, but I'm very bullish on Satellite Beach, by the way. I know a few real estate developers who have accumulated significant plots of buildable land in Satellite Beach. So keep that in mind, write that name down. Trust me on that. Satellite Beach is going to be a very, let's just say, interesting market. Michelle Henry says St. Augustine is very nice. Steph UF says my hubby is from Pompano Beach. Very cool. I think Jonathan in the chat is from Pompano Beach. I'm just a big fan of the state of Florida in general, particularly the further south you go. I guess I just like the tropics. But if you don't like humidity, you would not like South Florida. Because in the summer, the humidity is really brutal, but I actually like it like that. And if you don't like the humidity, you would definitely not like Singapore, which I hope to get to Singapore sooner rather than later too. We'll see if that ever happens. Rick says Naples is the nicest area in Florida that I've ever been to. Mark Francis says, Tom, you got to go to the Florida Keys. I've still yet to go to the Keys. But I agree. I'm very excited about going there. Hey, Matthew, thanks for joining. Have a great weekend. All the best to you. Ellie says you haven't felt Louisiana heat. A little bit unrelated, but since we're talking about travel, I think my number one spot where I want to travel is Jeju Island. During the summer, of course. Anybody in the chat ever been to Jeju Island? We'll try to meander our way through here.
I hope you hear something good. I hope I hear the word that I need.
DC322 says, what island? Jeju. Jeju Island. It's in Korea. It's a beautiful place. Google it. Jeju Island, South Korea. It's very, very, very cool. Oh, Harry Connor said like Surfside Beach. I like it too. I'll be in Surfside Thursday. All day Thursday I'll be in Surfside. That's very close to Bal Harbor. It's pretty much one and the same. And you have the main Flanagan's there. You have a lot of stuff. It's a predominantly Jewish neighborhood. There's a lot of kosher options. Pretty much every single restaurant on that strip in Surfside is kosher. I love Surfside. If I had the money, like if I had unlimited money, I think I would buy a nice condo on the water in Surfside. But that's way, way, way out of my price range. NBA Elias says my dad landed on Jeju Island during the Korean War. Well, thank him for his service, but yeah, Jeju Island's great. Ren 1018 says I've always wanted to go to Okinawa, Japan. Jennifer says have been across from Jeju to Busan. Daytona Gal says Marathon Key is beautiful, perfect for swimming. Yeah, Jack, you're right. They did close down that old clothing store I used to work at. It's right behind us. I think Express was a publicly traded company. I don't know if it's out of business or not.
The comedy show, guys. Comedy Central Showcase. Comedy Club. Comedy Central.
Oh, look at this. It says all new ball coming. So the original ball that they drop right on top of One Times Square, apparently they're going to take that down, put it into a museum, and there's going to be a new